Now, recently, Mike Huckabee had a different take on the cause of mass shootings, and he's going to talk to CNN about it. Let's watch.
I think we always talk about what the weapon was, but whether it's a pressure cooker or whether it's a gun, we're dealing with people who are either deranged or they're very focused because they want to kill people in the name of terrorism. We have not so much a gun problem, we have a problem with sin and evil. This is an evil thing when people kill another person, and it happens way too often.
Yeah.
And, I hear people say we just have to do something, but we need to do something that makes sense and something that actually helps.
Okay. Hey, we want to do something that makes sense and actually helps. Great. Now, he also added there are things that happen which we can prevent and some we can't. According to The Hill, for example, we could stop most of the car wrecks if we restricted speeds to 25 miles an hour. But as a society, we would never accept that. So sometimes we have to decide what risks are we willing to take. Now, that is a good question. Now, for Huckabee, he essentially advocates for, let's just watch out for our neighbors a little bit more. Let's if you see something, say something. Now, that's not exactly a good comprehensive plan of action. Sure, it's sensible advice, but does it really help the overall problem? Just telling people, hey, just watch out, man. There could be a crazy among you. Oh, okay. And that does what to prevent them from getting their hands on a deadly weapon? Oh, right. Nothing. Now, when he asks, what risks are we willing to take? Now, that's a good question. I like that question. Because remember, after the shoe bomber, we're now all required to take our shoes off at the airport. You want to go somewhere, you got to take your shoes off. That's after one attempted shoe bombing. Now, obviously, we can't handle somebody hiding a bomb in their shoe, right? However, we're perfectly okay with taking the risk that anywhere we go, we could be shot by somebody who's insane and that has access to an easily accessible gun. Not exactly good risk management tools. We're not exactly looking at what risks that we're willing to take here. Now, when it comes to mass shootings, we have a mass shooting every 2 to 3 months. And yet we're still not willing to take a look at trying to figure out some solutions, some sensible solutions to mass shootings. Now, they talk about mental health care, right? But that's a distraction, a deflection. If we actually talked about mental health care and actually put some action behind the words, then I would be in favor of it, because I think that's part of the total problem. But you have different factors in the problem than just gun control and just mental health. Now, liberals, at least liberals like me, we want to talk about all the issues and work on all the issues. But when you see somebody from the other side, and not necessarily everyone, but you see somebody like a politician talking about, let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about mental health. It's not the guns, it's the mental health. Well, okay, so if it's the mental health, then why don't you do something about it? Oh, right, we're not going to do anything about it. No bills about mental health have been brought up. None that I know of. None have been passed. None have increased funding. In fact, the healthcare stuff that the GOP has been doing a lot is trying to cut and defund Obamacare, which would actually help mental health. Actions matter. Actions matter. So, that said, actions, right? Well, we talk about laws, gun laws. Now, there's the argument, and I agree with that, well, not all laws aren't going to prevent all shootings. You're absolutely right. That is not reality. Of course, laws don't prevent all crimes from happening, right? They don't. There will always be somebody that finds a way to break the law. That's what makes them a criminal. However, that doesn't mean that we can't do anything. That doesn't mean we can't try to figure out a law that actually works. Just because somebody's going to break it doesn't mean we should get rid of all laws. That's ridiculous and asinine. And most Americans are like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a sensible position. Some people don't believe so, but those people also don't make any sense. Don't seem to be very sensible people. Now, on that, we need to do something that makes sense and something that actually helps. Well, in order to do that, maybe we need to look at what works in other places. And maybe try to get some ideas. I mean, there are a lot of different places. It's not like we're the only country in the world. We can look to other countries and see what they've done to solve this issue, or to at least reduce the number of violent gun deaths in their nation. We could look at that, because obviously what we're doing is not working. And when something doesn't work, what should you do? You fix it. You fix the problem. You make it so that you have something that does work. Now, on the solutions, do we ban guns? No. Good luck on that one, right? Now, a lot of people on the left point to Australia, right? Now, Australia worked because the population was fed up with gun violence. They had one mass shooting and they're like, fuck this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to have all these guns around, so we're going to pressure our politicians to take action. And they did. They took action, and they passed sweeping gun reforms. Now, they were willing to give up most of their guns. Now, you don't see that happening in America. In America, we don't trust the government. We're incredibly distrustful of the government and our neighbors. You ever see our culture changing? Not at the moment. We have a gun culture. And right now, that's a huge part of who we are as Americans. For good or ill, whether you think it's a bad thing or a good thing, gun culture is part of who we are. And that does not change overnight. That said, I wouldn't call to arm everybody either. Like these lunatics. Like, oh, just give everybody a gun. Everything will work out. No, it won't work out. That's ridiculous. You give everyone guns, and you're going to have shootouts everywhere. I mean, you just had a recent story that I'd read where an 11-year-old got a shotgun and shot an 8-year-old girl because she wouldn't let him pet her puppy. Is that how we want to solve our problems? By shooting each other in the face? No, that is not how we want to solve our problems. Arming everybody isn't going to work. Banning guns is impractical and, at this point in our culture, completely impossible. So what do? Well, here's the thing. In America, gun rights are a thing. And they're actually important to a lot of people. Now, we can have gun rights. And we can look to other places that do have gun rights, but also have gun control. That said, even if we do that, if we go a route more akin to Switzerland, which I would advocate for, because it's not a bad idea, because they have high rates of gun ownership, and they also have gun control, very strict gun control. That said, even Switzerland isn't the safest place in the world. They have a lot of suicide. But at least they're doing much better than we are, per capita. Now, on that, even if we do this, we'll never be as safe as Japan, Australia, or the UK, who have done more sweeping gun control legislation. However, we can be a hell of a lot safer and still have our gun rights. We can have our cake and eat it too. We can do this if we do this smart. And really, that's kind of the only way that I see America going forward on this issue. We're not going to have everybody armed like it's the Wild fucking West. We're also not going to have a complete gun ban like Australia. What we're going to have is we're going to have a trade-off. We're going to have a trade-off to how much, what Huckabee said, right? Risk. What kind of risks are we willing to take to reduce gun violence? And the issue of guns. What risks are we willing to take? And I think for America, the only way that I see us reducing the amount of mass shootings and gun violence is to allow ourselves to have a little bit less risk by actually putting forward some modest, sensible gun legislation that doesn't destroy the rights of people to carry their guns and to have their guns. That's the only way I see us going forward. And if that's an unpopular opinion, so be it.